plenty of time to come and be served at the refreshment center before showtime.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
But it does show up on the televised version, which is, as we talk about, like with Superman, you know, a lot of this stuff that doesn't make it into the theatrical cut suddenly makes it onto
right. So
televised version.
And we'll get into it. It's almost a shame that we have to talk about that 1 second, but there's just such
well, it's a buildup.
Yeah, it's such like an involved history between that movie and Disney. There's like a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah, well,
from the beginning, there has been. Yeah,
it is the OG, man. Bedknobs and Broomsticks. If you want to go back to animated characters,
this is true. Yeah, well, you know, Gene Kelly, you know, dancing with.
With the Jerry the mouse.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I'm assuming that we are actually in.
We're in.
So, welcome everybody. And Jim, I want to apologize that I'm late. I had to shake the weasels first.
The weasels, plural.
Well, that's the way he says it. The weasels. I had to shake the weasels. I can't believe watching Roger Rabbit again for the first time in quite some time. There's a lot of little sexual innuendo jokes going on in there.
Well, there is. So we just started talking about how Disney was not really in love with Roger Rabbit to begin with because of that.
Neither was the test audience.
I can't believe that story. Right. That seemed like geared towards that age group.
No. Yeah. So obviously we are speaking Roger Rabbit, but that's on the back end.
But not yet. We got to hold off. Let's hold off on Roger.
What are we speaking? What are we talking about up front?
Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Both which are available on Disney Plus, by the way. So we will be spoiling this if you have not seen it yet.
It's not plot wise, really. It's a very straightforward plot that doesn't have much, I am your father secrets going on, but just the fact a movie like this, we're going to be talking cameos. That's like that's the eye candy in both of these movies. So if you haven't seen and you want to be surprised by all the characters that show up
or outraged, like some people you can't just make a movie anymore. People just get all up in arms about whatever.
And of course, Christina's not with us this week, but she will be back next week.
She will be.
So Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. So I didn't know much about this before it dropped on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it just kind of showed up, right?
Yeah, I just knew it was going to be hybrid animation live action. But once I saw it, I was shocked at some of the things that they got away with in terms of these cameos. And it is so much like, this is another on the nose pairing from us because this is kind of being sold. And this is a quoted phrase, a spiritual successor to Roger Rabbit. Now, whether this means it's in the same universe as Roger Rabbit, perhaps.
Well, Roger makes a cameo.
He's there. Yeah. Is this Toontown? Is this that same world? I'd like to think so.
They do. There is a scene later in the movie where somebody has a little bucket of dip, but yeah, there's no overt reference to Toontown or anything like that. Toontown, well, Disney, Roger Rabbit takes place in 40s. So theoretically, this could, there's certain things about this that I really loved. Leaning into the has-been fan con, I thought was brilliant. I wanted to see a little bit more of that, but
yeah. And this is one of those movies that even more so than Roger Rabbit rewards you for pressing the pause button. Because there are little things, the cameos in here are so obscure to me anyway.
Yeah.
That I wasn't even realizing I was looking at cameos half the time, because I think a lot of these cameos are geared towards kids that grew up in the 90s. So they're more recent cartoons.
Yeah.
Like Darkwing Duck means nothing to me, really. So it wasn't like I was like, whoa, Darkwing Duck. I was like,
Well, did you watch the original show? Because this ran from Rescue Rangers ran from 88 to 90 on, I think it was on Disney. I am aware of it. So I know of these characters, but I'm not emotionally attached to them in any way, shape, or form. Although halfway through the movie, I'm going, why is Gadget not in here? Where's this girl?
So it was less about them, and I think more an opportunity to revisit this world of Roger Rabbit, where, you know, cameos are abundant. And that was really kind of what the plot was geared towards, is to allow for cameos like this. Now, let me just start by saying that Chip and Dale are one of my Disney grails as a pair. You know, I don't really have a preference between the two of them. They just come as a pair. Yeah.
Can you even tell the difference? Who's who?
Well, one has a red nose and one has the...
All right. Well, which one is
black
which?
Because
which one is which?
Chip has been traditionally the straight man, and that continues through into this movie.
Yes.
To their fans anyway. And Dale is the goofy one with the red nose and the buck teeth.
Dale is the doofus.
The doofus, right? There's plenty of opportunity for comedy, especially when they're paired with Donald Duck, which they were often paired with in their shorts, you know, the classic shorts. So I would say that maybe they're in my top 5, if not top 3 Disney characters. But saying that, I never had any interest in watching Rescue Rangers. I don't want to see them solving mysteries. I want to see Donald freaking out and then acorns falling on their head. That's the extent of my Chip and Dale. So watching this, I wasn't that down with John Mulaney voicing and Andy Samberg voicing, because they didn't have the little chipmunk voices, so that was a little jarring. I don't remember if I've never seen an episode of the original Rescue Rangers, so I don't know if they had it then.
I didn't even go back to see like who the original voice actors were, but I don't like when they stunt cast stuff like this, because it didn't mean anything to me. I mean, I know both those names, but I couldn't tell. I'm outside. Andy Samberg was on Saturday Night Live. Mulaney was on The Office. Like, I know where they came from, but I know online people were like losing their minds over this, that they couldn't get these actors, separated from the characters. And I'm like, that meant nothing to me. But yeah, I don't know. Were they implying that, when they were filming, they do the chipmunk voices, and when they weren't, they had these regular voices?
The director, Akiva Schaffer, was part of The Lonely Island, which was the comedy troupe / recording artists that Samberg was a part of, that wrote a lot of those digital shorts for Saturday Night Live.
Gotcha.
So Samberg and Schaffer are kind of like a package deal, I would assume. And then Mulaney, has some SNL ties as well. But I just thought, especially Mulaney, even though Chip is the straight man, he was just too monotone for me. It wasn't animated enough.
No, right. Yeah. Well, why? You're right. Again, you're putting a big name star underneath there, whether they have the credentials as a voice actor or not. You're just putting their name there.
Yeah.
Thinking that people, Adam Samberg, I'm on board. I love his stuff. Yeah. I would have rather heard at least to have them, the original cast.
There was that one scene where they gave it to me, where they were having a heated argument and suddenly they went into their chipmunk voices for like a second. Yeah. And then it was done. Then they regained their composure, and then they were speaking normally again.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some big names: Will Arnett, Eric Bana, J.K. Simmons, Seth Rogen.
But that was the best joke, I think.
That was
Seth
the
Rogen.
best joke, and it was a joke that kept on giving, because they go out of their way to like bring him all of his voice actor characters.
And you forget how many he's done.
Yeah,
even the Monsters versus Aliens blob was in there,
which is also named Bob, because that's what this character. They do.
That's a great movie. I love the original Monsters.
That is a
versus
fun
Aliens.
movie. Yeah, DreamWorks. It's kind of set up that, they had this TV show, they were celebrities, the show is no more, and now Chip is doing these has-been fan conventions where he's signing autographs and whatever.
No, Dale is.
Oh, it is Dale. I'm sorry.
It is Dale.
I can't even tell you the
just Dale is the red nose. He's the goof.
Yes. And that's where you get some of these great cameos. You get He-Man and Skeletor together at a table signing. You get Ugly Sonic which
This is what I can't believe.
This is a deep cut.
My son was all about this because he is a huge Sonic fan. So
was my son. My son, this was like the highlight of the movie for him.
So he was all over the internet stories when the fan base before the first Sonic movie came out rejected the original design for Sonic, which is named Ugly Sonic in this movie. So I'm unclear because I didn't really see much about it. Maybe you did. If Sega even needed to give the rights, because this isn't exactly Sonic the Hedgehog. This is something different. This is
they
Ugly
call
Sonic.
him Ugly Sonic. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who's signing off where or when. Because you, like you said, you do get cameos. You got Stan from South Park. You're getting Pickle Rick from Rick and Morty. So there's all these other, like you said, there's probably other cameos that I just had no clue who they were.
They were deep cuts. There was one Robert Crumb cameo. How many people are going to recognize that character? Yeah,
we got an E.T. Batman joke thrown in there. Tigra from the Avengers 90s cartoon. She's an obscure character to begin with, but and she's drawn in that 90s style. And that's one of the neat things I really like about this is they lean into every possible animation style.
That holds true to these original characters.
Right. But like at one point they go and they're looking for clues and they go to the chef. And I'm like, why are we getting this generic Muppet?
Yeah,
when we have the Swedish Chef.
Exactly.
Disney owns the Muppets. Why?
If this was Roger Rabbit, that would be a famous character playing that chef. So because I didn't know half the cameos and I only had to, I researched it later and then I realized who was who. When I was first watching it, because they had these generic characters, I'm assuming that it's a famous character that I just didn't know, but apparently, you're right. No. That half of who you see are just generic new characters. And then the other half of what you see are legitimate cameos of IP that's already been done.
Disney's kind of done this with the Wreck-It Ralph. They did the same thing in the second one when he goes into the internet and it's just every Disney IP is out there. It's like one of the major complaints about this movie online is that it is nothing but a giant commercial promoting all their other their characters. We at the end of the movie, they should have just left us at the gift shop. It's like,
well, you could say the same about Roger Rabbit as well.
Please, Daddy. Head and shoulders above this movie.
Roger Rabbit. So we open with Chip and Dale as kids. So again, this is a mixed community. So it's animation characters and live action characters living together in the same world. You see them as kids in 1982, I think it said.
I guess we're just ignoring the fact that Chip and Dale made cartoons all the way going back to the 40s.
Yeah, I know. We are ignoring that fact.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that Chip has a Knight Rider lunchbox.
Oh, you like it?
Very, very specific to 1982. Yes. But Dale is the new kid at this school, and he's an outsider from day one, and he's sitting by himself in the cafeteria, and Chip decides to befriend him, and then they become lifelong friends. And eventually they try their luck in Hollywood, and they get their own show, which is Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, which is the show we know of from the late 80s. So the show exists, but not as reality, as a show in this universe.
They are actors.
They're actors in a show. Dale tries for his own pilot, which is called Double Dale, Double
O Dale.
Double O Dale.
That's an in joke as well, because after Rescue Rangers was canceled, Disney was trying to do a Double Old Duck. And what happened is that the Ian Fleming estate owns the Double O name. And so the concept of Double O Duck becomes Darkwing Duck.
Wow.
So that, again, is a super deep cut that they're like, oh, he's going to go off and make his own.
So how could they even use it in this?
I don't know. I don't know.
Can you not say? Can we not say the words Double O? Or is the Ian Fleming Foundation going to come after us?
Listen, if they're listening, thank you for listening. Send us a cease and desist.
Yeah,
at least we know someone's listening.
I'll frame that letter.
That would be a highlight, right?
It would be a highlight.
Anyways, go ahead.
But Dale wants to break out on his own, and Chip freaks out because he thinks that's going to dilute the brand, right? It so happens that this pilot, Double O Dale, never gets off the ground, and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers get canceled. So fast forward to present day, Chip and Dale really have grown apart since those days because of all that. And Chip is doing insurance commercials. Dale has gotten CGI surgery,
which is brilliant.
A la Alvin and the Chipmunks, right?
Like I was saying before, you do see every level of animation, including, they double down on the 90s Polar Express Deadeye animation with Seth Rogen's character as well. He's like, is he looking at us? Yeah, I'm looking at you. He's like, you're looking straight ahead. What, are you looking at us? Yeah,
he's got those Polar Express eyes.
Yeah, I know. Creepy 90s animation, man.
But Dale is still carrying the torch. He thinks that there's a fan base out there for Rescue Rangers, and he's been trying to instigate a reboot all these years. So he goes to the conventions, and his table's always empty. And as Tigra tells him, if Chip was with you, you might get some more interest.
Right.
Which he ignores. And this is how we're introduced to Ugly Sonic, because he's got the next table over from
he seemed to
Dale.
be pretty popular, the Ugly Sonic.
He was getting some. But to be fair, it's the actual initial Sonic design wasn't that ugly. They uglied him up a little bit more for this movie.
And you couldn't have a conversation with Ugly Sonic without them just focusing on his teeth. My son and all of his friends had to run to the theater to go see Sonic 2.
Oh yeah, we've seen it as well.
Right.
We've seen it as well.
My kids are 20 though. Your kids significantly younger. So can I just point out though that the average lifespan of a chipmunk is 2 to 5 years? So we're pushing it already here. I guess maybe in the animated world they don't know.
And why? Speaking of lifespans, we're going to get into the character of Sweet Pete. Why does he age?
He aged.
And nobody else does.
Because that was
because he sees one of the Lost Boys at the convention, and he's still a kid.
He's like, Peter.
Yeah,
this is an issue. People are like losing their mind over this because they're saying that, the voice actor who played Peter in the 43? When was Peter Pan to Disney?
In the 50s. It was in the 50s.
It was the 50s. This kid, Bobby Driscoll, after this, he was a child actor. He got into drugs. They found his body in 1968, and people are screaming that this is making fun, that they're leaning into that with this Sweet Peter Pan character.
Disney over the years, they've had their poster boy, Kurt Russell held that title for a while.
Sure.
Bobby Driscoll was one of the first. And then you get this new breed of actors that are on the Disney Channel, that they change out every 5 years or so.
Right.
So this kid, unfortunately, once he started getting older and grew out of his childhood, he couldn't get work. And then he died because of a heart failure at 31.
Wow. Yeah, I hope that that's not the case. I took it as a larger, just a commentary on child actors as a whole. I mean, you could have easily put Danny Bonaducci in there. Any one of these kids that found, Jay North fame at an early age, and then you grow up and suddenly you're not adored. You're not, you're yesterday's leftovers.
Yeah, the main reason why people are saying this
because
it seems Peter. To mirror exactly what happened to Bobby Driscoll. He didn't get into the bootleg
Did he make bootleg
business.
Movies?
I read that they were considering for that character a grown-up Charlie Brown.
Oh, that would have been even darker.
It would have.
I think it would have been.
But yeah, it's an unfortunate story. So, and you can't, if you know the backstory of this guy.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of
you can't help but think of it.
Overshadows. Yeah. So let's talk about this bootleg movies, because that's basically what's going on here, which is these people are being kidnapped and they're being bootlegged into cheesy versions of themselves so they can make knockoff movies and he can make money. Which
you see when you go to any dollar store, or if you're in a big city and you see a vendor on the street, it's got these type of bootleg movies, which makes it so funny. What was the bootleg of The Little Mermaid? The Small Fish Girl or something was the title. Yeah.
Lady and the Tramp was Spaghetti Dogs. Jasper, the Friendly Ghost.
Cartoon characters are disappearing. And what's actually happening is, as it's revealed at the end, is that this Sweet Pete and his goons have this bootleg business where they're actually kidnapping legitimate characters. Flounder is one of the ones that's kidnapped, and then
missing, yeah.
Chip and Dale get involved because Monterey Jack, who was on Rescue Rangers, also goes missing. So they put them in this, what looks like an MRI machine, to reanimate them, tweak them a little bit differently than what they normally look like. So Monterey Jack gets refigured to look like Dumbo, so he can go and make Dumbo knockoffs. Flounder is actually making knockoffs of Little Mermaid, but they've altered his appearance slightly.
It's typecasting, by the way.
So they have to get to the bottom of this, but mostly it's trying to look out for all these cameos and Easter eggs in the
that's
in
basically
the background.
what it comes down to. Early on, when you have the flashback of the two meeting in school, one of the teachers yells at a kid and she goes, "Who are you, Donald Duck? Put some pants on." And I'm like, none of them wear pants. Why are you singling out Donald?
Right.
And then, like you said, we never get a Donald cameo.
No. The highlights for me, just because of the opportunity for all the Easter eggs, are the convention scenes.
Yeah.
Because in the second convention scene, because Ugly Sonic is just not a one and done. He comes back throughout. And then during the second convention scene, you get, as you said, He-Man and Skeletor, which was hilarious. There's nothing down there, you boob. Right. Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd with Ant-Man.
I know.
Get it? Ant-Man? It's just a guy with a lady. And then that's where you get the Seth Rogen. You get Pumbaa, Bob from Monsters and Aliens, Mantis from Kung Fu Panda. He's been around. And even Sweet Pea gets transformed. And you got like a Woody leg. You've got Zurg. He's got Wreck-It Ralph arm, but then he had like and he had Fat Cat head.
Wasn't one of those legs a Transformer leg? Because it transforms at one point?
Is that what it was? Because it was a metal leg, but I'm like, I don't know what this is supposed to be.
You heard that sound effect at one point when it goes, and then it changes into a wheel.
I missed that. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I guess it was. I guess it had to have been Transformers.
And then they had that one scene when Chip and Dale actually come upon the bootleg facility, and they have all the taken parts from the characters.
Right.
So that's, a pause-worthy moment in itself, because you see the muzzle of the Pink Panther up there.
Oh,
but again, some of these things must have been so deep. I only recognized maybe 3 or 4 of them, and the rest of them I had no idea what they were.
Can I ask, how come his house phone was gigantic, but his cell phone was his size? I was a little confused, and they all live in little tiny houses. It's like, someone's going to run that over. Like, is that in a cul-de-sac? Are you all by yourself? How do taxes work there?
And he's got a locked, gated house, but he's not even famous anymore. He does insurance commercials. Jurassic Park reference.
Yep. Terminator.
T2. Yep. When Putty is oozing under the door, you even have the music cues for it.
But Gadget does show up.
You get a reunion.
So you don't really get, this is not a Rescue Ranger movie. If you're invested in those characters, Monterey Jack is MIA the entire time. He is the MacGuffin that they're chasing after. You got these two who aren't buddies at all. They're button heads. And Gadget, who's off with 1,000 kids.
That was a little disturbing, that aspect, actually.
Yeah, don't think too hard about that.
Yeah. When Dale takes a bullet for Chip at the end.
Yes.
So this is the Zurg thing coming at them. Did the Zurg pellets normally have mouths on them? Because I was like, is that the Mario cannonball?
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It looked like, he was shooting out. No, I think he just shot out like little ping pong balls or something.
Yeah. A sequel is being considered.
For this?
So, yeah. So would this be, now that this has been established, would we be getting more of a straight Rescue Rangers kind of a story?
Now it's more like a Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
Bring these characters back together, and now boom, you know what? This was a hit, and now we're going to make a new show.
Yeah, because that's what the plan was in 2014 when this thing was first announced. It was going to be a straight live action reboot, like kind of in the vein of Alvin and the Chipmunks, where you've got the characters as, CGI animated characters with live action.
Jason Lee's not doing much, so.
That's got to be a choice, though. He's very funny. That's got to be a choice. That can't be.
I think him and James Marsden are. No, was it Marsden? Was it Sonic?
Well, yeah. Well, he found his franchise,
he was Peter
man.
Rabbit, right? He was in People, but wasn't he also in Peter Rabbit?
Hey, he's Cyclops. You can't take that away from him.
I understand, but how many animated sidekicks can you hang out with?
No, he was not in Peter Rabbit. He was in Hop. He was in.
Oh, sorry. Hop.
Peter Rabbit was Dominic Moynihan, who's in like every movie.
Hop backwards is poo, by the way.
Speaking of Pooh, you do get a bootleg.
There was a bootleg Pooh.
And a bootleg Simpsons, because they were running through the bootleg studio at one point.
Which is great because Nancy Cartwright actually plays a voice in Roger Rabbit.
Oh, which one? I didn't realize that.
She plays the shoe that gets stuck in the dip.
The traumatic scene.
And you think, when did The Simpsons drop? 89?
On Tracy Ullman, it was, I think 89. Yeah.
This was Roger Rabbit was 88. We're already jumping to the next movie.
Yeah. So let's end this. Let's end Chip and Dale.
Yeah, please.
So what kind of buckets would we give?
I enjoyed it for what it was. I wasn't invested in these characters. I could care less. Like I said, I don't like the stunt cast of bringing in big names. But if that's what got it made, then who am I to say otherwise? You know, the internet seems to be pretty divided on this. People either loved it or absolutely hated it. I saw some people were saying that they actually canceled their Disney subscription because of it, and I'm like,
that goes a little bit far.
Just don't watch it. You can tell me that, every show on a channel you're absolutely in love with? Well, yeah. I'll give it a 3.
I'm going to go the same. I was mildly entertained. It wasn't bad. Ugly Sonic and the Skeletor He-Man interaction, those were the only laugh out loud moments for me.
Yeah.
And missing the chipmunk voices. I have to admit that I'm missing those voices.
I'm curious now because I don't know if they had those voices in the cartoon, the original.
We'll have to go look. I'm sure it's there.
You think that we would have done our research?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I had no desire to watch that show, though.
There was enough going on. Is it on Disney Plus? Rescue Rangers?
It is.
Has to be.
It is. Especially now. If it wasn't before, it's got to be.
I wonder if it got a nice little boost because of this. Parents are watching this going, you know what? This is crap. I'm going to let you watch the original. So there you go. It is on Disney Plus. Go check it out if you want.
I will say, though, not knowing the original theme song, that thing was in my head after the end credits.
I will say, I'm going to say right now, if anyone out there is listening that is attached to this show and you're now thinking to do the same thing with DuckTales, stop it. Don't do it. DuckTales has already been rebooted once. It was brilliant.
Successfully. Absolutely successfully. Yeah.
Leave it alone.
All right. So let's leave Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Are we going to Toontown, Eddie?
We're going to Toontown. All right. Let's go to the concession stand and we'll be back with Roger Rabbit.
They're ready, folks. For refreshment that is great.
If it's early or it's late,
It's Orange Crush, Orange Crush,
the drink that's extra good.
fresh fruit flavor.
That's for me. It tastes better.
Naturally, Orange Crush, Orange Crush, get some right away. Visit our refreshment stand right away for delicious Orange Crush and all kinds of good things to eat.
Okay, we are back, and I actually did a please count as I was watching this. How many times does Roger Rabbit say?
Please, Daddy.
Only 7. Only 7.
Really, that is a catchphrase, though. Oh, the time you pulled my ears, Eddie. Yes, everyone, I think, has a Roger Rabbit in them.
Now let's talk about the original release. This was first released in June of 1988. What was 88? Rain Man was the big movie that year.
Yeah.
Animation was kind of in its death throes at that time. Like, what was the biggest Disney animated movie that came out before this? Maybe Oliver and Company. Black Cauldron was a few years before. But this,
there really wasn't. No,
there wasn't. It was kind of in its death throes, and this, I think, generated interest again in animation because
this created a whole subgenre of movies. I do remember standing outside in line in Queens, New York, waiting to get into this theater to see this movie.
Oh yeah, I saw opening weekend too.
A crowd. You don't really get screenings like that anymore. I also remember same theater, Fatal Attraction.
Okay.
Around that same time, give or take. Just like there was a fervor about this because it really was. It still is revolutionary, and I will say straight up, it looks gorgeous on Disney Plus. I do that all the time. Whenever we watch any of these things streaming, I haven't watched this in a very long time.
No, I haven't either.
And the thing is that we'll get into the production aspect of it, but you're talking like 82,000 hand-drawn animation cells where I don't remember how many animators they actually had on staff, but you actually had to film everything physical first. And then like a year later, after it was animated, it would put it together and they would, composite optical composition before you actually saw whether or not anything was really working.
Yeah.
Because, anytime these Toons show up, they're carrying a physical gun. So you have, someone on set with a pole with a gun walking around. Everything's got to be staged out. A Toon picks up a tray. You go into the bar scene with the octopus, and he's got all these. That was all practical. These are all done with wires. It really is impressive. And now with CG, I mean, we just talk about Chip and Dale. It's probably all in camera, and you're sitting right there watching the dailies. Oh no, Chip's off his mark. Move him back an inch.
If you're looking for any inconsistencies, maybe every once in a while the eye lines don't really match up when Bob Hoskins
I mean, think about Bob Hoskins again. He's and 98% of his co-stars are animated. And we'll talk about Charlie Fleischer, who actually did the voice of Roger Rabbit, and the guy showed up on set and demanded to be put in a costume so that he could be off camera doing the voice.
I would love to see stills of that.
There are stills.
There are.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, last night I also shared on our Instagram page a couple of the naughty parts that have been cut out.
So this is not just rumor and innuendo. This is actual fact.
I have actual facts, and it's been changed. That was for the original VHS release, and then it was changed on DVD, and now on Disney it's completely obliterated. It is the scene we're talking about, the scene where Jessica Rabbit and Eddie are in Benny, and they go through the tunnel, and he ends up in the dip, and they both get ejected from the car. There is a crotch scene of Jessica Rabbit, but it's just
flesh colored. It's not like detailed.
It was originally flesh colored. It's still titillating to a stupid 6-year-old. It was like, I remember trying to.
It's not like it's Basic Instinct, right?
She looks like a Barbie doll. Let's put it that way. But then I think in the DVD they change it so that she has white underwear, and now the dress completely covers it. There is no crotch shot. But Bugs Bunny also gives Mickey Mouse the finger when they're free.
Are you serious?
And he goes like this with, "Hey, now you stinker," and he's wiggling his fingers. There's a shot where his middle finger is up directly at Mickey Mouse. I don't know if that was intentional.
Is that can't? Well, those if it was Warner Brothers animating this, then I would understand. But why would Disney give themselves the finger?
I don't know.
Maybe that was a stipulation from Warner Brothers. We want Bugs to give Mickey the finger, or you can't use him. Okay.
There were stipulations that. Because this is the one and only time that Warner Brothers characters and Disney characters share the same screen. That's why they're in pairs, because they had to have the exact same screen.
Equal screen time.
Although I think Porky Pig got a couple extra seconds over Tinkerbell, but here, look.
But is that okay? So what Jeff is showing me is a screen grab of Bugs. He's holding a carrot and his finger is up on the other side of the carrot. But is that pointing towards Mickey or just,
No, he's into space? At Mickey Mouse. No, he's looking directly at Mickey across from him.
Well, he is a stinker. He is a stinker.
Ain't I a stinker? Yes.
That is within character, so maybe I'll accept.
I actually think, that was another argument, which was Mickey would never give Eddie an actual spare tire, so they made sure that it was Bugs Bunny who did that. Yeah. So, there was a lot of rules set down in order for these characters to coexist.
I saw this on opening weekend as well, and packed house. It was the Roosevelt Theater in Hyde Park, I remember, and the audience went nuts, especially during that Mickey Mouse Bugs Bunny scene. Yeah, well, I couldn't even. I think everybody was screaming so loud that I couldn't even hear the dialogue. What was going on?
It was unheard of that the two characters could share the same screen. But I mean, again, you don't realize like how revolutionary this thing really was. We talked at the top of the show that, the OG, you're going all the way back to, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, where you have human actors interacting. Well, Mary Poppins did a little bit with the penguin dance. And like you said, the Gene Kelly with the Jerry dancing mouse. But this is, these are living, breathing characters interacting with humans, picking things up, touching each other, carrying each other. So,
just going back again to the Warners and Disney agreement, That was unheard of, for two studios to work together. This is, decades before Sony dealing with MCU to bring Spider-Man in, but that was on that level.
And you know who made that happen, don't you?
It's Mr. Spielberg.
Thank Spielberg.
You. Listen, Thank you.
You know what? If you got 3 damn big monster movies coming back to back, you got a little cachet to make them fun.
Yeah.
Listen, any chance that Bugs Bunny could show up at my movie? Anything
for you?
For anything for you, Mr. Spielberg.
Yep.
Yeah. I was blown away that Kathleen Turner is uncredited in the original.
Yeah, I never realized that until this viewing.
Because it's a given. I mean, she was also at the height of her, but yeah, it's crazy.
I read that she was 9 months pregnant while voicing Jessica.
She looked pretty good. She looked pretty good for 9 months pregnant.
But the movie opens with a legitimate Roger Rabbit short.
This is genius as well, because it's old school Tex Avery, Tom and Jerry. Poor Roger's left to own his, to babysit baby Herman. And all hell breaks loose. But, you go through the cartoon, which is, back in the 40s, you always got a cartoon before the movie started.
Yes, you did.
Right.
And they weren't politically correct either.
We all watched tons of Three Stooges and Tom and Jerry. I never once decided I was going to whack my brother over the head with a hammer. I saw this on a cartoon. But
you play the entire cartoon, whatever the 5 or 6 minute short, whatever the length of it is. And then the camera pans back once Roger blows not his lines, but his the stars. So he summons birds instead of stars, and that's a joke that comes back in Chip and Dale as well.
Yeah,
it's a Raoul J. Raoul production.
That's Joel Silver, by the way.
Is it? Is it actually Joel Silver?
It is Joel Silver. Yep.
So they're on a set and they're filming his latest cartoon, and then the camera pans back and you realize that Roger is an actor and Baby Herman is an actor. Television. Very similar to Baby Fenster from the old.
Fenster, baby. Yes.
Put down that dirty money.
My favorite line, by the way, is I got a 30-year-old lust and a 3-year-old dinky.
It's just too bad you never see him like through the crack in the door shaving and with the tattoo on his arm.
That's exactly. That would have put it over the top.
And you get introduced to Eddie Valiant, played by Bob Hoskins, who's a private eye. He goes to see Mr. Maroon. And that's what Bugs Bunny would always call people. What a maroon. So he owns the animation studio. He wants Valiant to follow Jessica because he wants to drive a wedge because he thinks that Roger is losing it. He thinks that he's too invested in Jessica, and Maroon is convinced that Jessica is too timing Roger. So already you're getting into very adult themes.
Oh, yeah.
At the start.
Because, and Eddie, he's a drunk.
Yeah, always got a bottle with him. Yeah.
Bob Hoskins, in this day and age, no one would ever hire a guy like this now. You would need a Brad Pitt pretty boy to fill this role. But Bob Hoskins is this character. And I don't think that
I cannot picture the big names that they were throwing around here before they settled on Hoskins. Harrison Ford, they wanted as Valiant. I can't picture that. I cannot picture that.
Well, the thing that I read, which was Robert Zemeckis, who directed this, and Spielberg wanted Bill Murray and could not get a hold of him because you've heard the stories how Bill Murray is, he's a recluse. And he found out in one of the trade magazines that they just couldn't get a hold of him.
After the movie was made.
Yes.
After it was made.
And he lost his mind. I so would have done that. Well, maybe you should answer your phone there, Mr. Murray.
Mm-hmm. Chevy Chase was considered.
That I see. I can see
Eddie
that.
Murphy turned it down and also regretted it. But yeah, so Valiant goes to see Jessica at the Ink and Paint Club where she's got an act. And what an act that is.
Amy Irving doing the singing, by the way.
Yeah. Who is credited. The fee that Eddie charges is $100.
I know. You got 50 up front.
And in today's money, I think that's only $1,400. So that seems a little cheap as well.
Dollars.
Yeah.
I think if anything, inflation's kind of killed it. But this is where you get you get Jessica. This is one of my favorite jokes as well, which was, he sits down and the little waiters who are, black and white penguins. And he's like, Scotch on the rocks. And I mean, not rocks, put ice in it. And of course it comes back and it's got a rock.
And it's actually got rocks. Yeah.
Toons.
And then you're introduced to Acme as well, who's at the club, who's watching Jessica's show. And so Eddie in the back alley after the performance takes some photos some compromising photos.
Ooh, patty cake.
Patty cake, patty cake.
Got caught playing. Not my Jessica.
Patty cake.
He just keeps going. Patty cake, patty.
And of course, the joke is that
Literally
in the photos playing patty cake with each other, Acme and Jessica Rabbit.
I'd play patty cake with her.
When Valiant goes to Maroon's office, where you see Dumbo hovering outside the window, I've got him on loan.
That was clever.
From Disney, along with the cast of Fantasia.
Yeah. He works for Peanuts.
So as Valiant is leaving, these are also pause-worthy moments because you see Bugs walking across the street in one split-second scene when Valiant leaves Maroon's office. So again, Bugs is Warner's is getting the take on Disney because you don't see Mickey in that scene. You only see Bugs.
That is true. That is true. Although there's a couple hidden Mickeys throughout this.
Are there?
Two, I will say at the very end, when Eddie has the 3 bowling balls in his hands, they kind of make a Mickey head, and the hole going into Toontown is a Mickey head.
I see. Okay.
So there's probably more hidden, but go back to that scene because it's just Eddie walking out and he's just completely surrounded by Toons. Every one of those characters is being animated separately. And you have multiple layers of shadows and talk about Jessica Rabbit and her dress is glistening. That's a separate animator drawing that stuff over top. Some of those scenes, especially like with the weasels, are like 600. A standard frame is 24 frames per second of film. Now you start layering in all these different characters, especially at the end. You're talking like upwards of 600 frames per second of layers of animation that they are overlaying on this stuff. And it does. Sometimes the live action gets a little murky because it was what they had to do is they had to print out every frame. Every second was a single frame that the animators would now use as reference and then take the acetate and draw the character over top of the live action scene to make sure they're covering the wires or covering, like I said, the pole holding up the bottle or whatever it is that the character is interacting with. Crazy. Or
that one scene where the gorilla actually throws Eddie out the back door of the club.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about Benny the car as well, because Zemeckis used that in Back to the Future 3 filming. When you see Marty getting dragged through the town square, he's being dragged by that Benny, the little motorized car that they created.
Now, speaking of Back to the Future, isn't that tunnel what they also use?
It is. Yes, it is. Yep. Yeah, actually, that's a very famous park. It's a Griffin Park Observatory. It's in LA.
Oh, yeah. Well, Rebel Without a Cause.
Terminator, Jurassic Park, Transformers, La La Land.
They filmed a scene from Tourist Trap up there too, by the way.
Tourist Trap.
But yeah, the Ink and Paint Club is also where you get the dueling pianos with Daffy and Donald. And apparently, again, Warner's, one of their stipulations was they wanted the current iteration of their characters, while Disney wanted the classic versions.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to set it in 1947, you have to stay true to what those characters look like.
But so Disney, in order to appease Warner's, mocked up footage with the
original
current version, but then ended up using the classic anyway in the movie.
Oh, the old bait
and switch. Yeah.
Bait and switch. Ain't I a stinker?
So Marvin Acme is the guy that does the patty cake in the photos. He also happens to own Toontown. And there is a dispute, and this is the MacGuffin of the movie, the will and testament of Marvin Acme, which we assume is handing over the deed to Toontown. So this is what everybody is after, to find that will and testament after Acme turns up dead. But everybody thinks that it's Roger that did it.
I don't think this guy could even get out of a box.
No.
Somebody.
What happens to Acme is a safe gets dropped on his head. And this is very near and dear to Eddie because the same thing happened to his brother. Well, something fell on his brother. Was it a piano?
I want to find out. Yeah, it was a piano. I want to find out that because you only see Eddie in like photographs on his desk. And I'm like, I want to find out that this is like some famous guy that they just use for it's nobody.
It's nobody.
This is the only role he's ever. IMDb has nothing on this guy.
Once this became a hit, they were throwing around sequel ideas. And I think the first idea was a prequel of what would have happened with the brothers. Not necessarily the piano on the head story, but
Well, you knew it was coming. Well, the one thing we haven't talked about is that this is based on a book. It's based on Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary Wolfe.
Yeah, did you look into this? Because I didn't look into what the actual book is about.
Incredibly dark. Roger dies really early in the book, and Eddie has to team up with Roger's doppelganger. Apparently, Toons can manifest doppelgangers, but they only live for to do their stunt work is basically what it is. And they only have 48 hours before this doppelganger disintegrates.
Wow.
I guess I'm glad they didn't follow through. But in the book, whenever a Toon speaks, it's in a word bubble that floats above their head. And I worked with an art director once this guy spent way too much time at the local bar, but he was like, imagine if everyone just had word bubbles above their head. And I'm like, that's genius.
Isn't that the plot of that Tom Holland movie that we covered?
That is true.
Chaos.
Walking. Chaos Walking.
Chaos Walking.
Chaos Walking. But there was two sequels to the book. Did you notice that? Did the book have meta characters and references as well, or no? Nowhere near like what Disney did with this. There are Roger's like a brown furred rabbit. He's not like.
But there was no Bugs and Mickey in the book.
As far as not that I know of. So, but do you realize there's no question mark in the title of the movie?
Bad luck. Bad luck to have a question mark in the title of your movie.
Not only that, I think they just said it didn't look good. It's like, but you're stating a question.
But can we think, what's up, Doc? Right? That has a question mark in that
Who's
title.
Talking now.
Does it? Movies? Does that have a question mark?
Well, there's a question mark at the end of your question, but I don't know. We'd have to look that up. I don't know. You caught me off guard on that one. But
at the crime scene, we get introduced to Christopher Lloyd,
Judge Doom. Just Judge the fact Doom. That if your name is Judge Doom, I'm guessing you're up to no good.
Yeah. And his introduction, if you were a kid watching this movie, I can imagine that this scene sticks with you when they're in the Acme warehouse and they're which is the murder scene. And one of the cops knocks over a box with all these shoes. And one little shoe is nudging next to Judge Doom. And it looks like a little puppy when you look at it. And he picks it up. And he also introduces the concept of the dip here. So, which is the only thing that can kill a Toon. I don't understand how the weasels were dying during the end if that's the only thing.
Yeah, well, that's not the only thing. Meanwhile, they're running through the dip left and right. It's like that would still do some serious damage to your feet. That's
the little shoe gets dipped completely and evaporates, and the shoe is of course red. So when Judge Doom pulls his hand back, it looks like there's blood running down his glove.
Yeah, that is the Nancy Cartwright.
That little shoe.
And I'm sure that you read this, which was Tim Curry auditioned for Judge Doom, and they deemed him too scary. And I'm just like, I don't know. By the time you get to the end, when it's revealed that he's a Toon, sorry, spoiler, when he has those cartoon eyes, he's horrific. Christopher Lloyd is scary as hell. So what was Tim Curry bringing to this role that made it even worse? They're like, yeah, no, that's too much, man.
Is there test footage of him? I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it.
Absolutely. Because he was coming off Legend.
And then he channeled all that terror into Pennywise after this. So the plot gets very convoluted pretty quickly. There's the Cloverleaf Company that's buying up the red car trolleys. So there's no transportation. Jessica says that Maroon wanted to blackmail Acme, so he forced her into the patty cake situation. She'd never do that otherwise. So
Roger's in hiding.
Judge Doom is on their trail, and there's a great scene because there's a bar for the trolley drivers, right? That's right next to the trolley stop that Eddie's girlfriend Dolores works at. So that's where he's hiding Roger in the back room. And the judge comes through right after Roger is done a number. So there's broken glass everywhere and the judge is walking through it and he's very suspicious. And this is, again, one of the best parts for me. He's walking around and he's tapping his cane and he's singing to himself, shave and a haircut.
Toons can't resist this.
Shave and a haircut. And you see Roger in the background.
2 bits.
Yes, and as we said, Doom has his his cadre of weasels. And is Squiggy from Lenny and Squiggy one of the weasels?
David Lander. Yeah.
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 Had to be Squiggy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, you've got, they really dug into all of the, you got June Foray, Pat Buttram, Jim Cummings, Mel Blanc, obviously. All these voice actors from those cartoon days, most of whom are not with us. I will say that those Indian and cowboy bullets probably wouldn't fly nowadays.
And do they come back? I would assume that they do.
He threw the gun away with 2 bullets left in it. I'm like, what are you doing, Eddie? I don't know. Yeah.
But I mean, when he first takes
dum-dums
that case with the gun in it with the bullets, he's used them before. So they're meant to come back, so he can use them again and again and again.
Because good seeing you again, Eddie. A long time no see. Yeah, and that's where you get the Pat Buttram. And again, Zemeckis leans into this. He uses all those guys again in Back to the Future 3. In the Old West.
Now, of course, Judge Doom is the sole stockholder in Cloverleaf. Now, he wants to get rid of Cloverleaf so he can make room for this freeway that's coming through. And that's why he wants to dip all of Toontown, because the freeway is going to go right through it. And that is his interest in Toontown. But again, he is a Toon himself, as it's revealed at the end.
Do you know the story behind this plot?
No.
This is the exact same plot that was being used as a sequel for Chinatown.
Really?
Yes. This is the exact matter of fact, the movie was called Cloverleaf.
They used the same name.
They just took this whole plot and said, let's put some cartoons in here and we'll make it funny. Yeah, the whole idea was to let's get rid of the buses, and the trolleys, to force people to buy cars. I'm like, wow, Judge Doom is like ahead of his time there.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So so during this, they're in the Acme factory at the end, as it's approaching midnight. And then Jessica and Roger are tied up and they're hanging there. And the dip it's almost like a James Bond Goldfinger thing with the laser. So it's coming towards them, and then Eddie is able to get it away from them. Then it's coming back again. And so it's almost like a silent film serial,
Yeah.
Like
I forgot how epic this end really is.
Yeah.
This ending is a lot of fun. Do you think Hoskins did his own backflips, by the way?
It looked like him. I'll tell you that.
It looked like him. It was pretty spot on.
They must have got a short and stocky stunt guy to do this, because it did look like him. So as you said, there's a dip everywhere now in this facility, but it doesn't take that much to wash it all away in the end.
Yeah, no. And these tunes are pouring in from Toontown, and they're walking all over the place on this stuff. Yep. Judge Doom is sitting there in a pile of his own goo, and they're like stepping on him. Did you catch it when he finally goes into Toontown, and he thinks he sees Jessica Rabbit, and he goes all the way up to the droopy dog going up, and he gets up there, and it's like, oh man. This lady comes chasing after him. But when he's standing in the bathroom before he falls, there's a little handwritten note on the bathroom wall that says, for a good time, called Alice in Wonderland. I
didn't see it, but I read I read it afterwards. Yeah,
it's right there. Yeah, and this is also where Mickey gets the finger from Bugs. So.
Okay. The reveal itself, because he's been wearing a rubber mask, is you never see his Toon face completely.
No, I'm probably glad.
Yeah, but when he does the leap towards camera, terrifying.
No, that's what I'm saying. What did Tim Curry bring to this role that they were like, that's too much? I don't know. Yeah. Did you? I don't know if you read this, but Bob Hoskins' young son refused to talk to him for 3 weeks after this movie was filmed. And when he finally got it out of the kid was mad that his dad worked with Bugs Bunny and didn't introduce him. I'm like, oh, that's a heartbreaking conversation.
Yeah.
You worked with all these guys and I didn't get to meet them.
Yeah. And then he's got to tell him he's not, he's not actually real.
Yeah. But while we're here, let's talk about the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus. Yeah. What? No.
So we do get some out of the box cameos here. Thankfully, many of which I knew who they were, unlike Chip and Dale. Betty Boop is a big one.
Betty Boop, yeah.
Woody Woodpecker.
Yep.
And I appreciated Peter from Peter and the Wolf in the front of the group at the end. I love looking at the list of characters they couldn't get that they tried to get. Popeye. they couldn't get.
I think that was storyboarded. Him and Goofy had a scene together.
Tom and Jerry were supposed to be in it. They couldn't get Tom and Jerry.
What were they doing?
I don't know.
Were they busy that day?
I guess
Were they doing a fan con as well?
Casper wasn't available.
They could have gotten Jasper though from
Little Lulu. That would have been an obscure reference.
Oh, I just sold a Little Lulu comic book the other day.
Did you?
1956 or something. Yeah.
So besides Tim Curry for Judge Doom, they were considering Christopher Lee at one point, who would have been good. John Cleese. I don't know about him. I don't know if you can do scary. I even saw Sting's name.
What? Really?
Yeah, being considered. But yeah, and as you mentioned, Mel Blanc, this is one of the final times that he voiced not the final, but one of the final times that he voiced Looney Tunes characters.
Well, I think he went on. I think he did do Space Jam, right? Was he still around for Space Jam?
No, I don't think so.
No, because that was 90.
Yeah, I think he died in 89.
Yeah, I want
Mel Blanc.
Yeah, I say you're right.
Terry Gilliam turned down the director's chair.
Are you kidding me?
And the reason, and again, just like Bill Murray, Eddie Murphy, he regretted it. And he said, I'm too lazy. He said, I can.
It sounds like a lot of work. I'm done. He's still trying to make that Don Quixote movie.
I know.
Yeah, Tilton Windmills, my friend.
But Zemeckis, because Disney bought the rights to the novel way back in 81.
Wow.
As early as 82, 83, Zemeckis offered his services as director, but he was unproven at the time because what had he made at that point? Used Cars, which was
yeah, that's a kind of a dark movie right there.
Zemeckis at the time was unproven.
So it wasn't until 85 when we hit
Back to the Future.
Romancing the Stone.
Yeah.
You got some chops under you by then.
Yeah. And then Spielberg was getting involved as well. And like we said, I don't think it was a coincidence that a year later, Little Mermaid ushered in a new golden age of Disney animation.
But this definitely unleashed a lot of these. I brought up Space Jam, Cool World. If anybody remembers that, with Dick Passenger and Brad Pitt.
Yeah, that's a complete rip from Jessica Rabbit, Cool World.
That was an interesting thing, too, which was Bob Hoskins. Her character design was never set in stone when they were filming. So he never really knew what she was going to look like until they actually, it was on screen and he was like sitting in the theater basically. And he was like, she's much more salacious than I ever imagined. So, but when they animated her, they really wanted to go, they exaggerated. Obviously the waistline is non-existent, even more so than a Barbie. But if you watch, they reversed whenever she walks, a normal human, your boobs would bounce down, and they reversed it. So whenever she walked, her boobs bounce up. They reverse. But she is an iconic character, and at one point, Eddie even says, he goes, what do you see in this guy? She's like, he makes me laugh. I'm like, that's all it takes, ladies. Make you laugh.
This is full of innuendo.
Nice booby trap.
Nice booby. That's exactly what I was thinking when the weasel goes to frisk her. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, the patty cake, the little baby Herman, he's slapping the lady on the butt.
So it's no surprise that Michael Eisner, who was the head of Disney at the time, thought it was too risque. But because of Spielberg's involvement, Zemeckis had final cut. He refused to change anything.
Good on him.
Yeah. So much so, Eisner had so much doubt that he refused to put it out under the Disney banner. It went out under Touchstone. Which is what appears at the beginning of it when you pull it up even today on Disney+.
I was thinking for some reason it was Buena Vista, but it is Touchstone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now I brought this up before. There is a deleted scene that I must have seen it on VHS because it's claiming that it was cut from the theatrical version, but it is on like if you watch it on television. That, we talked about this in the past where, some of these movies take these cut scenes and they fill out. So there's a whole scene where Judge Doom takes Eddie and he puts a cartoon pig head on him, almost like a Mad Max type thing, and sends him back out into the real world with a giant cartoon head stuck on top of his head. And his face is like outside the pig's mouth. Do you remember that at all? Do you have any vague?
No, not at all. Not at all. So you're saying that this was in the broadcast version and not
correct.
the okay?
Yeah. It is not on the theatrical. So I must have seen it there. unless it might be, for all I know, it could be in the comic adaptation.
Okay.
A lot of times, I mean, I had those as well. So sometimes scenes like that would make it into the comic book, but not into the movie itself. So,
and other interesting factoid is that it came out, obviously on DVD, when DVDs first came out in the 90s, but it was as a Touchstone release, and it wasn't released as a Disney DVD until the Blu-ray came out in 2013.
Oh, interesting. You can't, unless you go back to the VHS, you can't see the naughty bits of Jessica Rabbit anymore.
So that's a similar story to the whatever's hanging and swinging in the background of that one VHS edition of The Wizard of Oz. You got to get that one VHS.
There's a boob scene in Return of the Jedi when the slave girl Ula gets dropped into the Rancor pit. There's one frame where her boob pops out of the costume. That has been obliterated. There's a scene in Lion King when he flops down and the dandelions actually spell out sex. Yeah, a lot of this stuff has all been removed. But if you have the VHS, you can pause stuff like that. Of course, when you pause the VHS, anybody ever tried it? It's like grainy as hell, and you got the line squiggling across it. It's like trying to watch scrambled porn.
Now, do you think this is like disgruntled animators doing this?
It's probably people who are bored out of their gourd. Especially if you're not a lead animator, you are now somebody drawing that blade of grass in the background, and after a while, I guess you just have a little fun. Unless you're the guy who actually painted the cover for Little Mermaid and put a penis on the castle. Now,
this also reminds me, back in the 70s, during the heyday of Mork and Mindy, there was a pull string Mork doll that said, 5 different things. Yeah. Apparently, there was a few that got out. Robin Williams recorded some naughty messages.
Really?
And a few got out. And my friend, he had the pull string doll, and every once in a while, when he pulled it, it would say, "Time for doo-doo, dum-dum."
Nanu. Really?
Yeah. So we'd get together and we'd pull this thing and just laugh hysterically every time that saying came up.
Now imagine if you owned one of those, like after a while, those things just die.
Yeah. I wonder if he still has it, because I'm not in contact with him anymore. But Kevin, if you're out there, if you still have that Mork doll, find it.
That's crazy. That's pretty funny. I love stuff like that. Oh, boy. Yeah.
So critics mostly loved Roger Rabbit. Siskel and Ebert loved it. Janet Maslin loved it.
Wow.
The only bad review I could find was Time magazine. And their big gripe with it was that the opening scene upstages the movie that emerges from it. When the opening scene, meaning that short.
Animation.
That is so spectacular that I guess this guy couldn't help thinking about it throughout the rest of it. Yeah.
Take me back to that cartoon.
I know. And there were other legitimate shorts that for the next few years that they would run in front of Buena Vista movies. I think Dick Tracy was one of them that had the Roger Rabbit short play before it.
Yep, you are right.
And now you can see those shorts individually on Disney Plus. They got them up there. Mickey's Toontown in Disneyland, of course, based on Toontown in Roger Rabbit.
You go through that tunnel?
There's a Roger Rabbit dark ride that's in Disneyland.
A dark ride?
A dark ride. Yeah, that's what they call the inside rides, is that, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, they're all quote unquote dark rides. Even It's a Small World would be considered a dark ride because it's inside.
It is pretty insidious.
So let's talk about the test audience.
Yeah, this is interesting because you kids are stupid. I don't know what's going on here.
So was it coincidence or were they looking for teenagers to be in this test audience?
It sounds like that they thought that this was their target market, 18 to 19-year-olds.
So they had a test screening, right? And it wasn't any different than what the movie we know.
No, because like you said before, Zemeckis had Final Cut. And even though this test screening went horribly, horribly wrong, he refused to make any edits. I don't know if the studio started flipping out and it's like, oh, we got a massive, because this thing was like $17.5 million over budget. You were talking about $200,000 per minute was being paid for animation. That's a lot of money sunk into a movie that bombs historically in your screen test. So, it's a test audience of 18 and 19-year-olds. And apparently there was multiple walkouts, first of all. Walkouts! And the ones that stayed rated it abysmally. I can't understand that.
I was,
because
again, 17 when I saw this, and I loved it.
I was out of college, so I was probably early 20, 21.
Yeah, I didn't feel it was beneath me or anything.
No, as a matter of fact, I mean, I was thrilled. I couldn't wait to see this.
Especially with all the, salacious bits.
I don't even think that we thought we were going to get that stuff.
No.
No, you're going to watch.
But why would you walk out
cartoons?
unless you're trying to impress your friends? Like, this sucks.
I will tell you, I was with a group of people and they got up and walked out of Fargo. And I'm like, I am not leaving. You can wait for me in the lobby. I am not leaving this theater. I'm sorry. Even if a movie sucks, I'm still going to stick it out.
I don't know if I've ever walked out of a movie.
No, you can change the channel. I don't think I've ever finished Ishtar. But yeah, that is, I wonder, if somebody's like sitting around right now and it's like, yeah, I walked out of that movie. It sucked. And it still sucks.
Oh, no, I will. I did walk out once of a movie. And it wasn't because the movie was bad. It was just because it was too late and I was extremely tired. Batman Returns. I think it was like because it's multiple showings during the day. It may have been like an 11 o'clock showing.
Ooh, yeah.
And I was just like falling asleep. So I ended up seeing it again, like earlier, so I could actually enjoy it. But that was the only time I think I've ever walked out of a movie.
Wow. Was that the Bat Nipples?
Batman Returns? No, that was still Keaton.
Forever.
That was
Keaton.
That was Catwoman, Penguin, Keaton. Yeah.
That's a dark movie, by the way.
It is.
It is dark.
We'll have to do that one of these days. That is a Christmas movie. That is true. That is true. Billy D. Williams is Harvey Dent. We never got that. We never got a Billy D. Two-Face. I don't remember a lot of products coming out of this. Do you know at one point, because on the figure itself, Judge Doom comes with a vulture, and he was supposed to have a vulture sidekick like a Iago. And they just which didn't happen.
It was just too much animation.
So there were no Happy Meals or tie-ins like that with this, or nothing like that.
Probably. I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, Disney was all over that crap in the 80s. But yeah, I don't remember very much. I think there were some trading cards. I have like I said, the comic book. Marvel did the adaptation.
Again, talking about not being able to imagine anybody else other than Bob Hoskins as Eddie. I can't imagine a different voice for Roger. They were looking at Eddie Deason to voice Roger.
Really?
Herbishimus.
Eddie Deason. Go back to our Dead-Eye Polar Express.
And also I was talking about the sequel was actually going to be a prequel. Not only was it going to be, showing some of the brothers, but it would also go into the early life of Roger Rabbit. They were going to reveal that Bugs Bunny was his father.
What?
Yes.
Come on.
I read it. I don't know how true it is, but that's what.
Did he give him up for adoption? Ain't I a stinker? What? If you look at the design of Roger Rabbit, they really pull deep. You got the Bugs Bunny cheeks, but you have like that droopy dog, little orange tuffet on the top of his head. He's got the Mickey Mouse overalls. He's, they really kind of the yellow gloves.
Yeah.
So they really kind of pick and chose a lot of those character designs from that era to kind of create this character.
There have been different iterations of a sequel over the years. That was the first, a prequel idea. But then, as time went on, they were thinking of bringing it into the next generation, into the 50s, if they were going to do a sequel, because the original is in the 40s. Yep. But Zemeckis, he's been tied to it throughout the years, but he's sensed resistance the whole time from Disney because, again, of the salaciousness. Because you wouldn't want to do it differently. You wouldn't want to clean it up for this.
No, correct. Right. Yeah.
But they've been resistant the whole time. And Zemeckis doesn't think that a sequel will ever be done because of that.
Let it go. Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, you had the little animated shorts. Let Roger Rabbit live there. Don't make something just for the sake that it's a cash grab.
And if you're a Disney park fan and you stay on site at Disney, at the Pop Century Hotel, there is a Roger Rabbit building like that you can actually stay in, because there's different various giant statues next to each block of hotel rooms. And there's a giant Roger Rabbit in the 80s section of the Pop Century Hotel.
Is he like life-size Roger Rabbit?
No, he is giant. He is like
Really?
literally like a King Kong version of Roger Rabbit. And we actually stayed right next to him when we stayed at the Pop Century several years ago.
Interesting.
So
listen, if you get Jessica to come to my room for some patty cake, I'm all in.
After hours patty cake after a tough a tough day in the parks. When they first opened Pleasure Island at Disney, which is now known as Disney Springs, Jessica was the figurehead of Pleasure Island.
Yeah, well, there you go. Lead into that crap. Oh, I was thrilled to watch this again.
Yeah, I liked it better now than I did even when I first saw it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think we're bucket ready. What kind of buckets would we give?
Go solid 4.5.
I'm going to go 4 buckets.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved watching it again.
Yeah. I spoke about the animation. I will just say, at this point in time, it was the longest credit list ever. So at 6.5 minutes. Now, I think they speed that shit up, but some of that. You watch any of these Marvel movies and the amount of people that work on this.
I know, and they and they bulk them together too, I think, to make those credits go a little bit faster.
Yeah. 326 animators work full time on this film. Well over 1 million drawings. Crazy. They're sitting there probably deteriorating somewhere. What do you do with these?
Yeah, what's the name of that Disney Plus show? And I'm sorry that I didn't look this up, but I saw there's the Disney Plus show where the guy is going and trying to get memorabilia from each of these classic
I know
movies.
What you're talking about. Yeah.
And he did one episode on
Prop Park or something like that.
Yes, Prop Masters or something.
Right. Yeah.
So he did one episode on Roger Rabbit and brought in Kathleen Turner and Christopher Lloyd. And I think for the Christopher Lloyd thing, they had part of his wardrobe from Judge Doom. Okay. And he does, Christopher Lloyd does for the guy shave and a haircut.
Oh, nice.
Bits. Yeah.
I would like his cane that turns into a sword. That would be cool.
I think maybe that was one of the props that they featured in the show. Yeah.
What if it's just the eyeballs that popped on?
Yeah.
No ping pong eyeballs.
And let me tell you, if they ever do a sequel, Kathleen Turner still has the voice. So she could definitely do Jessica again.
Yeah, but there's got to be a lot of physical. I mean, because they are real world sets, and that's one thing we didn't talk about. Previous one, Chip and Dale, is that all these sets are practical. They're real sets, whether it's just the cartoon characters walking through them. And so, like at the end, when Eddie's grabbing all these things out of the Acme, at one point when he goes into Toontown, that cartoon gun becomes a physical gun in his hand.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that is a real prop. The bowling balls. So. There's got to be stuff out there.
Yeah.
Probably just sitting in a Disney warehouse. Maybe they got reused. Who knows?
One of the advantages, I think, of Disney Plus is that it's bringing these movies back to a wide audience. And, if Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers does anything to introduce Roger Rabbit to a wider audience, because for a few years after 88, he was a forgotten character. You never saw after the movie was released. Yeah, you'd see him in the Disney parks. They did put him in that hotel. It was a nostalgia hotel.
He was on the fringe, right? Yeah,
he was on the fringe. Yeah, he wasn't a character that was widely revisited or celebrated.
Well, but I think part of it is because it was adult themes.
Yeah.
You're gonna, it's like we go back to the alien figure from Kenner. Who are you making this for? Because no kid who wanted that figure could actually see the movie.
Right.
So, the same thing holds true, which is if I enjoyed Roger Rabbit immensely. Doesn't make me, I'm not going to, as a 20-year-old, going to go to the toy store and buy, rubber bendies of the figures.
Yeah. So maybe now you'll see him. Maybe he'll show up in a Disney parade once in a while. Who knows? Or maybe you'll see the mascot walking around the parks at this point.
Does he show up in the park as a mascot?
I haven't seen him. I'm sure that there's an outfit somewhere. Maybe there's a Jessica Rabbit outfit.
Charles Fleischer's still wearing it. Please take my autograph.
So shall we talk about what else we did?
What else
this week?
Did we do?
What else did we do?
I don't know. We've done.
There is a lot actually this past week.
Yeah,
from the day that we're recording, a lot has dropped in the past week.
Yeah, Memorial Day weekend, man, was busy.
On the streaming services alone, you got Obi-Wan, Disney Plus.
Obi-Wan.
You've got Stranger Things coming back on season 4 in Netflix.
These kids are like 45 now.
I know these kids. This is the awkward.
Much watching this.
This is Peter Brady, his voice breaking phase of all these kids in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And then you got The Boys coming back on Amazon. Just one episode so far has dropped. I've tried to stay up on all of it. I'm all the way through the 3 episodes of Obi-Wan. I hope you are too.
I am as well. No spoilers, though. We're not going to get into spoilers.
No, this is just, a quick discussion about these things. I'm through all 7 episodes of Stranger Things.
Yep.
And just a little like halfway through The Boys, because I just started that earlier today. Obi-Wan, I know, has been taken to task by some fans.
Oh, come on. It just toxic fandom is just out the window now. Like, nobody is happy. When you got your star, have to go on social media and tell people to
reprimand
and tell
fans.
You that you are not a fan. You are not a Star Wars fan because you are ripping into this actor who, for whatever reason, doesn't fit your mold of who this character is that she's playing. It's not her fault. She's hired to play a role. She's doing it fantastic.
Moses Ingram is the name of the actress.
Moses. I like that name, Moses, by the way.
The third sister.
She's third sister.
One of the Imperial Inquisitors. And she is one of the baddest, most hateful villains that we've seen in Star Wars in some time. She is relentless, this character. And I think you're gonna find out that she was a Jedi. They do have Force powers. I'm not as well versed in these Grand Inquisitors. And I think part of the dig is that in Clone Wars and in the cartoons and in the comic books, all these characters are these white-skinned aliens, and she deviates from that. And that's, I think, the big deal.
Is that, right?
Who cares?
Right? Whatever. It's a completely different medium. We're gonna go this way. Live with it.
And if you don't like her because of her character, then she did her job. Right. She is a great villain.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
But I think that she's great, and I think that she brings it to this show. And I think that's what was missing. I think that's what Darth Maul should have been doing in episode 1 instead of just like cameoing here and there.
Yeah.
She is relentless on their tail, and she should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's also some backlash about the actress who's playing Leia, the little girl. And again, how'd that go for Jake Lloyd? I mean, the kid quit acting, became a recluse because people were just jerks about it. Ahmed Best, who now all of a sudden, the prequels, people are like, they're the greatest thing ever. It's like, nah, go back a couple of years. People were jerks back then too.
I fell into that as well. I made fun of the prequels as much as anybody else did. But again, when the first episode of Obi-Wan dropped, of course, they did a recap of the 3 prequels, sure. And to be fair, they were showing a greatest hits version of the prequels.
Greatest hits. You're like, wow, that actually
looks pretty good. Yeah.
Misa cut out. Yeah.
Misa not in recap.
Or Jar Jar. No love. Somebody loves Jar Jar. You can't say that.
A lot of kids love episode 1.
Well, that's just it, which is, all of a sudden, now you got, I remember a couple years ago, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen were both showing up. This was pre-COVID. This was right when everything shut down. They were both going to be at Rhode Island Comic-Con, and they were signing because I think that they were starting to film Obi-Wan somewhere up in there. And I was all ready to jump in my car and drive the 6 hours or whatever it is to go and get them to sign my Star Wars poster. And my friend was like, why would you want him on your poster? Because he's Anakin Skywalker. I got Jake Lloyd. Jake Lloyd's on my Alec Guinness. I want Obi-Wan. Prequels. Blah, blah. It's like, oh, and now the guy's, charging $450 an autograph.
And Ewan McGregor in this new show. Fantastic.
Yeah. This is how you do a disgruntled Jedi. Like this is where Luke should have been. We missed all of this. All we saw was the beaten down Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. Although it is, it is retconning because, when you saw them face off, Vader and.
Well, but it's vague because he's like, last time we met, you were the master and I was the,
But that's not the case with I don't want to get into spoilers actually.
Yes. You're playing, and now it's already been greenlit for a season 2.
Has it really? So it's not one and done. Okay.
No, there's too much to be had here. So, but whatever. I'm on board. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, does it fit, Disney's shoehorniness in there? Lucasfilm is like, we got to just somehow make this work, because we all know where these characters end up. You can't, like, you got little Leia running through the woods and you're like, she's not in danger, because we know for a fact she's not going to be taken out. Or I'm enjoying it. But let's talk a little bit of Stranger Things, because what's really funny is we binged all 7 episodes, and each episode is now like an hour plus long, and I'm sitting here going, wow, this is like a 7-hour movie. And then I'm like, wait a minute. There used to be a time when a TV show was 24 episodes at 45 minutes. And I'm like, we got so spoiled. Now you get these little 30-minute episodes, and it's like you go an hour, and it's like, wow, they're going all out for me.
But these different times, different shows, I don't, those old shows that we're talking about, like, let's bring up Knight Rider, just because we talked about it in Chip and Dale. Again, back in those days, like you said, 24 episode seasons, but they were all standalones. It's not like they were sustaining
and they never referenced what happened the week before.
Right. So it was always, in the Incredible Hulk, Dukes of Hazzard. There was the same characters, yes, but they didn't never learned from episode to episode. They never referenced back.
I'm sure someone will say, but I go back to like X-Files for me. Was really the first time when you started getting that mythology, those overriding story arcs that every now and again would pop up.
Yeah, but even they couldn't sustain that over 22 episodes. They had to have their standalones.
Yeah, but that
sprinkled
was fine.
in.
I get my monster of the week or whatever, and then every 6-7 episodes, boom, Smokey Man shows up. Boom, Krychek. Deep Throat. And you're like, ah.
Lost was really the first one.
Lost was huge
for binge watching. Before there was binge watching, right?
Lost is the reason we have this podcast right now, by the way, because when we worked in corporate, every Wednesday or Thursday, or whatever it was, it was must-see TV. We watched it. It was pre-internet, where you really didn't have a lot of stuff online. I remember the first time that the lock goes down into the hatch, and there's a wall with all these schematics, and it was just like you lose your mind, because there's just like so much there to talk about Easter eggs. Trying to, we're like super sleuths trying to figure out what's going on here. Again, we're talking Stranger Things. Netflix drops this all 7 hours. You binge through it, and now you're like, all right, what's next? Where at least Disney, they're dropping it, with the Marvel or the Star Wars stuff. It's 1 episode a week. It's become must talk TV again. Where it's like, you watch an episode. Did you watch it? I haven't watched it yet. Don't talk to me about it. 2 days later, boom, I watched it. We talk about it. Now you got another couple of days for the next episode. So it is must talk television again. And we don't talk enough television here. But then again, we have very limited time to watch movies, let alone.
And now this season of Stranger Things is very much leaning into the horror aspects of the show that were always there, but maybe not to the fore. And they really are this time with this character of Vecna, as the kids call it. And that was a leap, I think. That was a D&D leap to kind of figure out what this thing was and then hit it on the nose. Yeah, that is what this thing is.
Oh, meanwhile, his name is Bob. Vecna. Where'd you get that from? Vecna. But I also think as the kids get older, this is kind of like the Harry Potter, which is she wrote to the age group as Harry aged. She would ratchet up the action. She would ratchet up the danger, but she would write specifically to that age range. Right. And I think that's exactly what's happening here with Stranger Things, because it is a little jarring when you see these kids and Will and especially Lucas, like some of these kids are not little kids anymore, But yeah, I have a buddy who's like, I watched the first 3 seasons with my kids and they don't want anything to do with this because it's too scary.
Yeah, and let me just point out, talking about these kids growing up, they don't want to change Will's hair from when he was 10 years old. Can you do this kid a favor and get him in a cool haircut? And
no, he's just
because even in the 80s, if you had a haircut like that, you'd get beat in the hallway.
Yeah, well, his mom's cutting his hair. Well, his mom's too busy running to Alaska. She ain't got time to cut his hair.
Talk about a bowl cut. That's what, that's exactly a classic bowl cut. Yeah.
At least my mom had a colander. Which is what my head looks like. So yeah, there's a lot going on, man. It's a good time to be alive, right?
Yeah, it is. It just keeps giving. Well, speaking of that, maybe this is a good transition into what we're doing next week on this show. The plan is next week, as this has been kind of pushed back several times. We've been given erroneous information several times.
Who knew that the internet would lie to us?
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
We're finally getting a chance to see this.
Because it is dropping on streaming services.
Now I'm going to have to pay for it because it's no longer playing in my theater.
Well, even, because this is the type of movie that I would see with my wife normally with, leaving my son at home. Now, according to the article we saw in Variety, it's going to be $19.99. It's not a rental, it's a purchase, but that's still less than two people going to a movie. Well, you're different because you have that Regal app.
Yeah,
the unlimited. So it's a different story for you, but it is less than buying 2 tickets, popcorn, drinks, whatever, just paying $19.99 at home and watching it. Although Christina swears that this is a theatrical experience, but if I can watch it at all, I'm happy.
And you own it, right? Or
you own it after you pay this $19.99. You own it digitally always.
Right. There you go.
So that is what we are covering next week. As long as what we've read is true, and it will be dropping to streaming services to buy this week, we are going to be covering Everything Everywhere All at Once, along with, and this is a movie I haven't seen since I saw it theatrically, so I can't wait to see this again, Kung Fu Hustle.
I just watched it the other day.
You did?
I did.
So Everything Everywhere All at Once and Kung Fu Hustle next week, and Christina will be back with us for that.
Yes. So, please come back.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Bye. Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. TeePublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you.
Shave and a haircut.
2 bits.